What's up? So we've been talking a lot about iMessage and RCS coming to the iPhone in 2024. And that's super exciting and everything, but what if you're an Android user that wants to use iMessage on your Android or your Windows machine, Linux machine, or even your Chromebook? Well, the good news is that you can, thanks to a free open source project known as AirMessage. And so today we are actually going to be installing AirMessage on my old MacBook Pro here. So that is kind of the catch with AirMessage, is that you do have to have a Mac device to install it on for it to act as the server. But the good news is that the only requirements for AirMessage server is that your Mac is running macOS 10.10, which is Yosemite, or later. So the point I'm trying to make with that is that you don't need a super expensive Mac to do this. You can go on eBay and buy a cheap secondhand Mac. As long as it's running Yosemite or later, you're in the clear. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get AirMessage installed on this Mac. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to go to the AirMessage website. You can open up Safari and just go to airmessage.org. This will take you right to the homepage that you see here. Once we're here, we want to go up to the install page. So this is going to take you to the installation guide for the AirMessage Cloud Edition. And we'll talk about it. There is sort of a non-cloud edition that you can install. You can configure it manually and just have all the traffic go in and out of your home network. But that can cause some security concerns for most people if you don't know what you're doing. So we're going to stick with just AirMessage Cloud for now. So this page actually does a really good job of highlighting exactly what you need to do. It's actually a very straightforward process. First things first is we're just going to actually install the server. So we're going to allow AirMessage to download things, and we're going to install the macOS installer. So we're going to open that up. So here's where it's going to prompt you that you can either configure it manually or you can create an account. Connecting an account is their recommended method. That's how you use AirMessage Cloud. That's what we're going to do for this purposes. Like I said, we'll talk about the manual configuration a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. It's going to use Google to sign into it. Okay, now that we have our computer registered with our Google account, we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And then that's going to pull up messages here. So this is going to ask us, basically AirMessage is going to need permission to the Messages app on our Mac. Okay, and like I said, the web page is going to go over all of this stuff. So it's going to prompt you, you're going to hit OK. So once you've clicked OK for those two prompts, you're almost done with the security part. You just have to grant AirMessage access to your accessibility settings. Now, to get to your accessibility settings, you go into System Settings, Security and Privacy, and then this Privacy tab on the right. Then you'll find accessibility over on the left-hand menu. Once you're there, if this is grayed out for you, if this right side is grayed out, make sure you click the lock in the bottom right and enter your password so that you can make changes to it. Once it's unlocked, we're just going to click AirMessage to give it access, and that's it. We can be done with that step. In addition to the accessibility settings, we do also need to grant full disk access apparently. So we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing we just did. Full disk access is on the left-hand menu in your privacy settings. You're just going to put that check on AirMessage, and then it's going to quit. It's going to ask you to quit and reopen it. That's fine. Just go ahead and do that, because otherwise it's not going to work. So we'll wait for AirMessage to come back up. Once we have AirMessage up here in the top right, we'll see that the server is running, but no clients are connected. So since AirMessage is acting as a server for you, it needs to have internet access 24/7. So if you're installing this on your MacBook that you are using on like a regular basis, that's probably not the best idea for you. I mean, it'll work, it's just not the ideal solution if you're traveling with it and it's getting disconnected and whatnot. That's why I recommend installing it on, an older device like this 2015 MacBook Pro that I'm using that I no longer use for anything else. So anyway, once you've got that figured out, if you are using an older device, you need to make sure that it's going to be on 24/7 and that it's going to have internet access 24/7. So for internet access, obviously you can use Wi-Fi if you want. Personally, I prefer to have this Thunderbolt 2 to Ethernet adapter. I like to be hardwired on my connections. They're a little more stable that way. I don't have to worry about like Wi-Fi interruptions or anything like that. In addition to the internet connection though, you need to make sure that your device never goes to sleep. Now, if you're doing like an iMac or a Mac Mini or something like that, follow these instructions on this page here from the AirMessage page to go into your energy saver settings to make sure that your device never goes to sleep. Now, if you're installing AirMessage on a MacBook like I am, it's a little bit different than if you were using like an iMac or a Mac Mini or something like that, because when you close your lid, your laptop is going to go to sleep no matter what what your energy saver settings or battery settings are. The AirMessage installation guide provides you 2 suggestions for 2 keep awake utilities that you can use to keep your laptop on even if the lid is closed. It recommends amphetamine or caffeinate. I'm going to use caffeinate because it's built into macOS, so I don't have to download another third-party app to use it. It's just open up a terminal, type in the caffeinate command, and go. Hey, real quick, just wanted to say I actually had issues with caffeinate, so I ended up using amphetamine, the other recommendation by AirMessage, to keep my MacBook on 24/7. So I would recommend you use that. I mean, maybe caffeinate will work for you, it just didn't work for me personally. So use whatever works best for you, but caffeinate didn't do it for me. And while you're here, make sure you like and subscribe. So now that we have AirMessage installed, we have our security settings set, we've got caffeinate running, we're in good shape. We're pretty much done with the actual laptop itself. The only thing we want to do here is connect it to a power source to make sure that it stays on 24/7 and make sure that it's connected to the internet at all times. Okay, so now we are ready to actually open up AirMessage on our Android phone. Now, before I do that though, I do just want to mention that I did run into some issues with caffeinate on the MacBook. So I ended up actually using amphetamine, which is the alternative that AirMessage recommended. It's very easy to set up. It's available on the Mac App Store, but just wanted to point that out. Okay, so once we are on our Android phone, we're going to download the AirMessage app, and I know it's kind of hard to see that that's what that is thanks to the white background that I have here, but you can get that on the Google Play Store. So just grab that from the Google Play Store. Once you have it, you're going to open it up, and it will actually prompt you to sign in first. Now, I've already signed into my account, and since it's a Google OS, you should already be signed into your Google account, the same one ideally that you signed into your MacBook with. But once you have that signed in, you just open it up, and it'll give you the option to sync your messages. You can do that if you'd like. I didn't for this purposes here, so I just have one message going with this stranger here, and if you read these messages, you can basically just tell that I was having some issues with caffeinate at first. So this was me texting them, and I can just see it says iMessage here, and we can say hello from my Pixel. Hit send, and you actually heard it from the MacBook that it did the send notification. So that got delivered, so the stranger received my messages, and if they responded back, which it sounded like they did, why are you using iMessages on the Pixel? So questioning my motives here, but nevertheless, that's how you do it on the Google Pixel. Okay, so that's how you set up AirMessage so that you can use iMessage on an Android. You can also use it on Windows, Linux, Chromebook, whatever, by going to web.airmessage.org and signing into that interface, and then that'll give you the exact same thing that you had on the Android, just on a web browser. So you can access that from literally any device that has a web browser on it, just about. You may have some questions about security, especially after the Sunbird and Nothing Chats debacle that happened a few weeks ago. The good news is that AirMessage is significantly more secure than Sunbird ever was. For starters, the entire project is open source, so anyone can go and comb through the source code head to toe to make sure it's not doing anything malicious. Additionally, if you're really worried about it and you don't trust the pre-packaged installation that you can download on the AirMessage website, you could download the source code and just compile it yourself, although I think that is a bit overkill. The other security positive is that you're not signing in to your Apple ID on a device that you don't own. With AirMessage, you're installing it on a Mac that you own already. With Sunbird, you were having to sign in to like a Mac Mini in some data center somewhere that you had no control over. So with AirMessage, at least, you own the device and you can secure it physically yourself. And if you don't want to use AirMessage Cloud, you don't have to. All you have to do is configure the server manually yourself, and in order to do that, all you really need to know is how to port forward and secure your home network yourself. As a network and security engineer myself, that is actually the most attractive option for me personally. I just wanted to show you guys the easiest way to set it up. If you don't know much about securing your home network, please just use the cloud service. The last thing you want is a ransomware attack happening, all because you wanted to use iMessage on Android. And I think it's important to note that I don't carry significant concerns with the AirMessage cloud service either. All the traffic is encrypted using TLS, transport layer security, so nobody's able to snoop on your messages without you wanting them to. AirMessage also goes into a fair amount of detail on their about page about the data they collect and why. Most of it is just standard metrics, it's not anything egregious, you can read it yourself. It's pretty straightforward. And of course, that's not to say that there will never be any data breaches with AirMessage, or that the developers may not start collecting more data without telling you, but that's just kind of a risk you have to take if you want to do this. But ultimately, all that being said, I personally don't see any real red flags at the current moment with AirMessage. Like I said, that may change down the road, but for now, this is a really awesome way to use iMessage on your Android device. That's all for today. We'll see you next time.